An attention-grabbing piece of energy is going to make its way through the central and eastern United States this week. This comes as a strong piece of jet stream energy will accompany it, and that has caused a lot of hype from severe to winter weather. This video has all the details you need on that storm in a truthful, no-hype manner, plus I'll give you all the details you need on a cooldown coming in behind it.
One Nation Weather.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to tune into this video. It really means a lot to me. By the way, right down here in the comment section of this video, I'd love if you'd answer my question of the day. In this case, it is, which type of season is your favorite? Summer, winter, or a transition season like spring or fall? Let me know your thoughts right down below, along with any other comments, questions, and concerns you have as you watch this video. But let's go ahead and get right into the future radar overview for this week's stormy and generally active weather pattern that we are going to have. I'm not going to get into all the controversy regarding whether the storm's being hyped up too much or if people are underestimating the storm. I'm just going to give you my perspective on this, and let's go ahead and get right into that using the future radar from the European model. This system really kicks off as we go overnight tonight on our Sunday night and into the morning of our Monday, November 18th of 2024. This specifically is around 7, 8, 9, 10 in the morning, where we're likely going to have a low pressure system stationed around Oklahoma and Kansas. Overall, it looks like this storm is going to be having a pretty dynamic start, and that means we'll likely have a warm front helping to pull up that moisture into our Monday. At this point in time on our Monday morning, around 7, 8, 9, 10 in the morning, from Texas and Oklahoma all the way up to Kansas and Missouri, a good chance for some rainfall, which could be quite heavy at times. And then notice we've also got those blue lines I just threw in western Texas. As we go out of our Sunday night and into our Monday, that will be the boundary that will help in bringing severe weather not only through Texas and Oklahoma, but even into some parts of Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana as it pushes eastward. You can see the development of this storm to the north and east just as we go through a 12 to 24-hour span going out of our Monday morning into the early parts of our Tuesday morning. Heavy rain along that warm front pushing all the way up here into the upper Midwest and north central plains. Notice just rain, no snow associated with the system just yet. And then along that cold frontal boundary that I showed you with the blue lines in western Texas from Monday morning, now it's pushing east and it's towards places like Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana, where we'll have to at least watch for a few severe thunderstorms. But it's as we go into our Tuesday afternoon when things become a little bit more interesting for the transition. We're going to see to some snowfall in some areas, and that starts with our original low pressure system making its way on up here into the upper Midwest while also fading away. You can see its overall intensity looks weaker as it makes its way on up here with some showers towards Minnesota and Wisconsin Tuesday afternoon. We'll even have the chance on the western side of it for a few snow showers to make their way into western Minnesota and especially in North Dakota around this time. While that low begins to weaken and push north, we've got a new low developing down to its southeast, somewhere around the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, the southern Appalachians, and the southeast U.S. Model guidance is saying that it is increasingly likely that this low will begin to make its way to the northeast out of Tuesday and into Wednesday, park itself around the Great Lakes region, and then feed into the cool air spilling around the other side of our old low that I've been talking about. And that could make for an interesting setup Wednesday going towards Thursday here around the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. First of all, you can see the beginning of this as we go through our late Wednesday. I think we're going to have quite a bit of gusty winds and rainfall going on in a lot of this region that I just kind of zoomed in on here. That's especially going to be prominent on the southeast side of our new low, which is going to be around Lake Erie according to this model. Rainfall on that southeast side through places like Maryland, Pennsylvania in particular, but really all along the east coast, a chance for some showers. Meanwhile, the cold pool spilling on the underside of our previous low is going to try to interact with this new one. We could see definitely at least some flurries and maybe even some more moderate to briefly heavy snow showers up here in the upper Midwest, making their way from northwest to southeast late Wednesday night. That flow will quickly sink under our new low by the time we go into our Thursday afternoon, and according to the European model as well as the GFS model, it looks like we will have a chance for some rain transitioning over to some snow showers in some parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and even the interior Northeast around this time frame. This is Thursday afternoon. This might not be exactly when this happens. It may not look exactly like this, but especially with some lake enhancements, we could definitely see some stronger gusty winds, making for some blowing snow in this region in some spots. I don't see a potential for really extreme accumulations like some channels are pointing out, but even as we go out of our Thursday through our Thursday night and into our Friday, some spots of rain in lower elevations, transitioning over to maybe even some blowing snow with higher elevations. And again, this is all really going to be, especially I think, lake enhanced as this low pivots around even later this week in the northeastern quadrant of the USA. So that's something I'll be tracking and I'll be covering more later in this video. Use the timestamps in the description of this video if you want to skip ahead to that part. But first, I do want to break down the severe weather aspects of our stormy pattern. And really, the severe weather threat is going to start tonight on our Sunday night and go all the way through around Tuesday before dying off. I want to give you a look at those risk zones, and that starts with tonight's risk, all the way up to a level 3 of 7 on my ONW severe scale for scattered severe weather being likely in western Texas with our strong low pressure kicking up. Spotty wind and hail damage and a few tornadoes should be the main threats if you live in the dark green or especially the yellow shaded areas there through west central Texas and into southwest Oklahoma. be weather aware, have a way to receive alerts, because we could even see, again, that tornado threat tonight and as we go overnight into our early Monday morning. Speaking of Monday, throughout the day and even towards our Monday night, we'll see the threat shift east, as I mentioned. The risk zone that I've highlighted for some isolated severe weather is in that dark green shade. Eastern Texas, a lot of Oklahoma, into southeast Kansas, and then over into parts of Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, and even western Mississippi. An isolated severe weather threat will exist during this time frame, and it could even include some tornadoes, so be on the lookout there. You can't, just fully ignore these low and severe weather threats as they make their way from west to east. And here's another example of that as we go into our Tuesday and Tuesday night. Sure, it looks like a very spotty threat with only a few severe thunderstorms probably likely during this time frame, but as you go down there towards especially the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and Alabama, certainly some stronger storms in the mix there. And we'll also have to watch, speaking of those storms, the flooding chance that could come out of them. Let's go ahead and focus on one zone at a time, and I want to start here with the Central Plains as we're going to see that rain in the most immediate future here. Going out of our Sunday night all the way through our Tuesday, that's when a lot of this rainfall is going to fall, and it could accumulate in quite heavy fashion all the way from northern Texas all the way up to around Minnesota and Wisconsin. Those yellowish and orangish shades, especially as they transition over to those reds, they indicate anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain, and a lot of this will fall in a fairly quick period of time. You know the rules. Turn around, don't drown. Just follow that if you happen to find a roadway that has some water over it from a probably minor creek or stream in this case. Be on the lookout for that there in the Central Plains. We'll also have a brief chance of some flooding down there towards Mississippi, Alabama, and the western parts of Florida. As you can see with those heavier totals, that will probably come around Tuesday into Wednesday. And then we'll also have some later week rainfall that could induce some isolated flooding up in the northeast U.S. But overall, we need that rain. And speaking of the northeast U.S., let's go ahead and talk about not only that rainfall side of this, but the snowstorm potential in a little bit more detail using the GFS ensemble members. Think of ensemble members as basically individual models, and then they just come to be averaged out in a solution like what we're looking at right here. I really want to focus on the snowstorm side of this because that has been what has been hyped up the most. First of all, here late on our Tuesday, November 19th of 2024, a pretty good chance for some snow with our original low up there into parts of the North Central Plains, particularly up there in North Dakota, moving into Minnesota. But as we see that new low form down here around Lake Erie that's anticipated to develop, that could certainly help in pulling the energy from our other low and the cold air that's going to be underneath it down to the southeast. I think anywhere here from around Minnesota all the way down to Pennsylvania and New York, we will have the potential for some pockets, not widespread, but pockets of some snowfall, and that could especially be heavier as you get closer to those lake-enhanced areas. Again, the latest timing looks like this is going to be as we go out of Wednesday night into Thursday when this begins picking up. Cooler air, gusty winds all getting in the mix, and that will help in increasing possibly even the coverage of our snowfall as we go throughout the day Thursday in some parts of the Ohio Valley, parts of the Great Lakes region, and then over here into the interior northeast. Again, with the way this storm is natured, we could see rain above areas that are seeing snowfall, so Michigan could see some rainfall Thursday into Friday, while we see snowfall in that cold pool south of there towards places like Indiana, Ohio, and West Virginia. That's just the way this storm is expected to play out. Even as we go out of Thursday through Friday and Friday night, we will continue to see some snowfall, especially based off places like Lake Erie, and then heading on up there into the interior northeast. We could see some of that snowfall making its way into those interior areas of our New England states as well, while other areas just continue with the rain and wind. In terms of total snowfall, here's a look at what the GFS ensemble members are anticipating. This is that exact same solution I just showed you, but in terms of the actual snow totals, I want to start with the zones that are going to see snowfall first, and that's going to be on up here in North Dakota and northwestern parts of Minnesota, where, of course, we're anticipated to see the snow with our original low Tuesday night going into our Wednesday. It looks like overall in those bluish shades that indicates around 3 to 6 inches of snow, and that could be fairly widespread through a lot of the northern two-thirds of North Dakota and then over there in northwest Minnesota. I wouldn't rule out a few spots getting more like 6 to 10, dare I say 12 inches of snowfall, but that is going to be on the very isolated end, and for a North Central Plains snowstorm, it is not really much of a snowstorm, to be quite honest with you. Same goes over here into the Great Lakes, the central and northern Appalachians, the interior northeast. A lot of this is coming off those lakes. You can see those heaviest totals looking like they could be on the eastern side of each of our individual lakes as the winds push from west to east and enhance those bands. Again, I think most spots only looking at 1 to 3 inches here if you get snow through the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and the Northeast. Of course, we will see those more elevated totals that could try to push up to half a foot to a foot. That will be very isolated, though, and it will be very lake-dependent with the wind flow. Speaking of the wind flow, this is one other reason the storm is able to be hyped up, because we could see technically some blowing snow and near blizzard conditions as a result of wind gusts that could accompany the falling flakes. As we go out of our Monday to Tuesday, first of all, through the Central Plains, along with the low pressure system, our original one that's going to make its way from Texas up to the north central regions, we will see some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts there, and that could accompany some of those flakes we see in North Dakota and Minnesota Tuesday going into our Wednesday. Speaking of the flakes, whatever flakes fly here into Thursday, assuming that risk continues in parts of the Ohio Valley and Midwest, I shouldn't call it a risk, but that chance continues in that region. It looks like we'll have 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts that could accompany whatever rain showers, whatever snow showers are going on here during that day. So this is Thursday, November 21st, around the middle of the day. This is where part of that hype comes in. People can act like we're going to have some extreme blizzard conditions going on. I really do think we are going to have the potential for some blowing snow to get in the mix, and that could get to near blizzard conditions in a few instances, especially with elevation as you go towards the Appalachians. But again, overall, the snowfall doesn't look too heavy, and that shouldn't be enough to cause major issues, especially for an extended period of time in this region. I'm intending for my next video to be Tuesday to cover all those aspects I just talked about of this storm all over again, or at least the ones that are still continuing beyond that point. But for now, I want to discuss the cooldown that's going to come with this storm, because for now, Iowa, Missouri, all the way back down to Mississippi, as we go into the early part of this week, we are 10, 15, 20 degrees above average temperature-wise there. What changes? Well, we see that cold pool sink under our old low, making its way to the new one, and you can see into our Thursday, November 21st, around the same time, the winds are going to be gusty over this region. Those gusty winds are going to be bringing in this cooler than average air, 10, 15, 20 degree below average conditions, especially into the Ohio Valley. And notice how those anomalies are actually stronger there in comparison to a place like Wisconsin or Michigan around this point. This is why our snow totals are definitely not fully set in stone yet. There's still some variability to it, and we could see some areas get heavy snow that are actually further south than in places like Michigan. Here we go, taking a look though at the high temperatures that are actually going to come with those temperature anomalies I was just showing you. Let's start with our high temperatures for our Monday, November 18th of 2024. This is when temperatures are 10, 15, 20 degrees above average here through a lot of the Mississippi Valley and some parts of the southeastern quadrant of the U.S. We've got 80s down towards the Gulf Coast, 70s, and then a transition to 60s up towards the Midwest. Here we go into our Tuesday. I want to circle this zone in particular because this is where you're going to notice that big transition from Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday. First of all, here, Tuesday afternoon, we are looking at 70s from Tennessee pushing up into Kentucky, even as far north as parts of Illinois, Indiana, and western Ohio. We begin to see the transition there, the 60s and 70s being pushed further southeast, while these areas now get into the 50s, and you can see the 30s knocking on the door from the upper Midwest. And then by Thursday, wow, look at that big transition. Where we were 70 in Indianapolis, Indiana on our Tuesday, we are now 40 for a peak high temperature. These are not low temperatures, these are highs for our Thursday, November 21st. It makes sense because obviously we are going to have the chance for snow, and with 35 to 40 being peak temperatures in some parts of the Ohio Valley, that does line up with that chance for some flakes to fly. Notice, though, we could be cooler in Ohio for a high temperature than Michigan on Thursday and even again on Friday. That shows you just how important that cold pool of air sinking under our low pressures is going to be. I'll continue to track all those fine little details and the changes in the models as we go through the next several days and throughout the entire winter and beyond. Using the awesome weather model maps I get from Weatherbell, you can check out those maps for yourself using their free trial link below in the description, but also right down here below on YouTube. Make sure to leave in a comment answering my question of the day if you're interested in that. Also, leave any other comments, questions, concerns you have down below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video and you have not already. I'll catch you in the next one, likely on Tuesday.
One Nation Weather.